Yeah.
Hi!
Hi.
You're gonna tell me a story.
Yeah, I have two stories. Um, my first one, and I may have told you the name of the documentary at some point after I'd watched it the first time, but I don't think I had told you any of the details on it.
Oh no, I don't remember hearing any details of a documentary. Or a
Yeah,
name, to be honest.
I, yeah, so the first one I'm covering, I actually found out through a Netflix original documentary limited series thing they did, and it's called "Who Killed Little Gregory."
Little
So
Gregory?
yeah,
Oh, oh
yeah,
dear.
and so
Who? Who, Kelsey? Who? Oh, excuse me.
we'll get to it. It's more. There's a lot more going on than just this kidnapping. It's a pretty interesting one, and it's probably one I'd say would be in my probably top five of unsolved. Spoiler alert, it is unsolved. Where I would want to know what the end is. Because it is
Oh.
kind of just strange from the get-go.
Oh no.
Yeah.
That's gonna perplex me.
Yeah. So this takes place actually in France. So the Netflix documentary they did is all in French with subtitles, or you can get it dubbed over in English.
Okay.
So it's a small village of less than 1,000 people in La Plaine-sur Vallon in France.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's tiny.
Yeah, it's a very, very small village. And it starts in 1980 when Jean-Marie and Christine Villemin, they had just gotten married. Christine was from a lower class family, while the Jean-Marie and the family she was marrying into, the Villemin family, were kind of aspirational working class family. That out of the 1,000 people that lived in the village, 100 of those people were part of the Villemin family. They were a huge family in the village. So between cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents, everything, most of them lived in the village, and there was about over 100 of them.
Wow, you really don't want to mess with that family,
No.
I'm guessing.
No, you really don't. So this family, most of the family members, they were kind of well off. They ended up working, most of them, really good paying, blue collar jobs. They weren't really kind of down and out people. They were really, people looked up to them in the community, and the family kind of considered themselves to have respectable positions in the community. So they had kind of an air of being uppity people, as you could say.
Or they're a pillar of the community.
Yeah,
But that can
tended
go from pillar to killer.
Yeah, they tended to rub people the wrong way, kind of. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
some people said that Jean-Marie was really controlling and kind of authoritarian at work. So he was pretty rude, people claimed. And then some sources even claimed, even though there's no, I guess, evidence of it, but people did claim that he was beating his wife Christine at the time as well.
Oh no.
But there really is no evidence to support that, so I don't really believe that at all. But I thought I'd mention it because it was in a couple sources.
But so was it multiple people were saying that though?
I think it was probably people at his work. People at his work really just didn't like Jean-Marie.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But still, if it's true, that's even, yeah, he's an even bigger dick.
Yeah. So, yeah. Christine, she actually, at the time that her and Jean-Marie got married, she was actually pregnant with another man's child. And this child, after she gave birth, she ended up naming him Jackie. And
Oh my.
yeah,
She sounds like a bit of a hot mess.
kind of. In watching the documentary and everything, they're actually both extremely nice people, and like, I feel so bad for them with the whole situation, which is kind of why I don't
Their
believe.
kid.
Yeah, why I don't believe the whole thing about him beating his wife. It really doesn't seem like either of them, but again, you don't know what happens behind closed doors, so.
That's true, but like from what you saw in the documentary, they look like pretty loving and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
One second. I gotta sit up in my chair. I don't want to. Okay.
So one of the sources, though I don't remember them talking much about Jackie, like in the documentary itself. Again, I didn't rewatch it, since I had watched it months ago, but one source I found.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I didn't rewatch it because it was like an almost 9 hour long like documentary
Oh,
thing.
right, it was a
Yeah.
miniseries. Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't have
Okay.
time to rewatch it all, so most of my research is from what I remember from that, along with what other articles and stuff were written up about this.
Okay, nice.
So I don't remember much of the Netflix series talking about Jackie. The other child, Christine's child. But one of the sources did say that Jean-Marie, I guess, didn't pay very much attention to Jackie. Yeah. But they did describe Jean-Marie as associated with, like, Gregory, their child that was born on August 24th, 1980, that he was a good father, when the couple welcomed Gregory.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so maybe a bit of favoritism. I'm not sure. The one source I was reading seemed to kind of just be, I don't know, maybe like vilifying the couple for like what happened, which kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but the whole article had a lot of information in it and the rest of it was really well written. So,
Yeah, there's a lot of like blaming
yeah.
the parents in those kind of cases for sure.
Yeah, this one is just crazy. So the couple welcomes Gregory Villemin to the family on August 24th, 1980. So just over a year later, starting in September of 1981, the Villemin family, all the family members and extended family, began receiving strange phone calls and letters, mostly containing threats of violence against the family.
Oh,
Yeah.
so there was someone actively out to get them.
Yes. So the phone calls, along with the threats of violence, they also contained family secrets that the callers knew about in great detail. These were like old family secrets, and that they were revealing them to different family members, attempting to cause rifts between like family members and kind of split them up because they were a huge group. Again, it's over 100 people, so like 1 in 10 people in this village was part of this family.
Oh, and like that makes it even harder to know which one of them's doing it.
Yeah, they have no idea.
It's a Gossip Girl or what is that?
Yeah.
show? I don't know. I
Yeah,
didn't watch
Gossip
it,
Girl.
but-
So most of the phone calls and letters were received actually by Jean-Marie's parents, Albert and Monique. And this is awful. Like, this family was harassed. I don't know how anybody would handle anything like this happening to them, but so Albert and Monique, Jean-Marie's parents, and other family members received up to 27 phone calls a day and approximately 1,000 phone calls and letters in a 4-year period. So they were
Holy
being
shit.
harassed. Yeah, 27 calls a day up to.
Oh, is this after the disappearance?
This is before. Yeah.
That's very confusing because I'm like, wait, then that like how many people are doing this? I thought it was
Yeah.
like one crazy uncle or whatever. like,
No,
you know?
it's insane. Like, So, yeah, this is, like, whole
What the
mystery of
heck?
this mystery caller, too, is also unsolved. Like, they don't know anything. So I'm
So
like,
it was
that's
like
why,
one person on the phone all the time?
um, they, based on, like, the voices, they've narrowed it down to a man and a woman involved. Other than that, they really don't know.
Oh,
Yeah. So,
wow.
family members, with the help of police, actually began recording and cataloging the dates, times, the length of the calls, and recording the actual audio of the calls, and they're in the Netflix special. Um, but the caller is really, really faint. They have to put like subtitles of what the caller's actually saying,
Oh, okay.
because it's so muffled and like quiet, just like whispers. But
Ew.
yeah, so
Like, even worse.
when they began recording the phone calls, some of the calls were silenced, some of it, music was just playing in the background, but other phone calls were a man or woman stating threats, as I said, such as, "You will die," or "We will murder you." So they're just
Just
out.
like completely vague, too.
Yeah,
Like, no, do this or we won't murder you. Just like, we
yeah,
will murder you.
yeah.
Oif.
So
Oy
the
vey.
during this entire time, over this 4-year period, as I said, the family believed it was another family member because of the knowledge of the caller, in regards to like the family secrets that they were sharing.
Yeah.
And
It's got to be someone at least close to the family.
yeah, like this person has information. So if they're not, they think it's like an extended family member or something. But yeah, this person knows a lot of shit about everybody in this family. So
And it is a small town, too, I guess.
yeah,
That's the only other thing I was thinking. Yeah.
the Villemin family was fairly wealthy, because of Jean Marie's work as a supervisor. He was working something with cars. I don't know if it was like manufacturer or what. I tried looking it up, what his position was, but I couldn't really figure it out. But he was actually 26 at the time, so he was working as a supervisor at about 26. And he had built a house just out of town that was on top of a hill, so you could kind of overlook the rest of the town. And he had done this to get away from the majority of the family in the town. So they were still kind of just outside the town so they could visit, but they didn't want to be inside the town with his family anymore.
A little bit of distance. Okay.
Yeah. And the him and Christine's success was also mentioned by the caller repeatedly, and the callers also called Jean Marie, quote, "little boss." That was their nickname for him. They did not like him.
Weird. Hmm.
So the callers also stated revenge against Jean Marie in particular and did not specify what this offense was that they were trying to get revenge for. But some sources say, and some believe, that the caller may have been angry about the treatment of Christine's older child, Jackie. Again, that's kind of like a rumored thing of him not really caring about Jackie as much as Gregory.
Okay, so it wasn't
Yeah.
like the caller said as much.
No, they never really said. They just said, like, they're gonna get revenge on you and we're gonna murder you or we're gonna kill you. But they didn't
What the
say what it was
hell?
about.
That is so freaky.
Yeah. So the caller once threatened, or I guess this is one of the few times that the caller actually like called Jean Marie directly instead of talking to his parents or like one of the uncles in the family. So the caller once threatened, to burn down Jean Marie's new house that him and Christine had built, to which Jean Marie replied, "Go ahead, I'll just build another." And the caller didn't like this, so they then threatened Jean Marie's wife, Christine, saying that a trap had been set and the caller had been watching her, and if she had left the house, that she would have been raped.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
What the
So,
hell are these fuckers like trying to do?
right? So, Jean Marie, again, he remained calm. He like didn't really get like aggressive. He didn't yell at the caller, so this made the caller even angrier because they were trying to figure out what Jean-Marie's weakness is. So it's not his house, it's not his wife. So they decide to target Gregory.
Oh.
And they're quoted as saying, "I see him with my binoculars, and if you let him out of sight, you will find him strangled." Yeah, so let him out of sight, you will find him strangled. So that's awful.
Yeah, if they're just like not stopping. I don't know.
No, yeah.
I don't know how else to say it.
So this finally angered Jean-Marie, and the caller had finally figured out how to hurt him. So Gregory's now the target. And in 1983, so this is about 2 years later, the caller, still after doing 2 years of phone calls every day, letters every day, the caller kind of wrote them a letter stating that this would be the last contact that they would have with the family, and then went radio silent for a year and a half and didn't contact the family.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, they were like, probably thought they were rid of him. That's
Exactly.
really shitty. It just lulled them into a false sense of security.
Yeah. For a year and a half. So,
Wow.
this unfortunately brings us to the kidnapping, today's topic. So, shortly after...
Good thing I still have some wine left from yesterday.
Yeah, this one's just so weird. Between the family's harassment and everything, it just, I don't know, it's so confusing. Like, yeah, because I'm not even kidding, it has to be a family member. At least 2 family members, his immediate family members, killed his son. And, like, they don't know. Like,
how awful.
Right? Yeah. Anyway,
somebody's got to know something.
Yeah. So, shortly after 5 p.m. on October 16th, 1984, so about a year and a half of radio silence from the caller, 4-year-old Gregory was reported missing by his mother to the police after he disappeared while playing by a pile of gravel that was in the family's driveway after construction of their house. So they had kind of like a little leftover pile of gravel that Gregory, I guess, was out front of the house playing in the gravel. Keep in mind, they're kind of separated. Like, they don't really have neighbors. Their house has, like, kind of like a gated driveway up to it, and it's on top of a hill. Like...
Okay, yeah. So, a little bit isolated. And
like, a bit. Yeah.
No one's just going to be casually walking by.
No, not at all. Somebody, like, intentionally did this. It wasn't an opportunity thing. It was fully intentional.
And they managed to keep themselves hidden during it somehow.
Yeah. So that was at 5 p.m. Christine calls the police and says that they can't find Gregory. He's gone missing. He was playing in the front yard. At only 5:30, so half an hour later or less, Gregory's uncle reported a phone call from the now not radio silent caller. So they finally called back after a year and a half, stating that they had kidnapped the boy and that his body could be found in the Villemin River.
Jesus Christ.
Right? It's awful.
That's not like a regular kidnapping or like for ransom.
No, not at all.
I don't know. That's just... It seems like so... That doesn't seem like revenge motivated. You know what, at that point...
Yeah.
Hang on. Yeah, at that point it just seems like you like doing what you're doing. Or you wouldn't kidnap a child and just kill them. Or say you killed them.
Yeah. There's... So at 9 p.m., obviously, like, cops and everything go to the river after they get this information. And at 9 p.m., Gregory's body was found floating in the river. His hands and feet had been bound with rope. And he had he had been outside playing wearing a wool hat, and that had been pulled down like over his face, so you couldn't see
Oh,
his face.
he never stood a chance.
No, and
Poor
he's
baby.
what? He's 4. Yeah, he's 4 years old.
That's just the sickest kind of person.
Yeah.
I'd almost rather you killed the adult, you know what I mean?
Right?
That if you're
Yeah.
mad at the guy,
Yeah, don't take it out on somebody's child like this.
no. Yeah, that's just something they're hiding behind, but it's sick.
Yeah.
Either way.
So the kidnappers and now murderers, they sent a letter the next day. It arrived on October 17th, and some sources say the letter just simply said, "I have taken vengeance," but an actual copy of the letter says, or is a lot longer and includes like profanity and everything, giving a possible motive as jealousy. That's where they kind of got it, and point towards John Marie's factory, that this might be one of his employees, maybe, if not a family member. So the
It's
letter.
does he have any beef with any of his family members? That's what they should be asking.
Yeah, really, like, nobody's talking. This family will not talk. Like, it's insane. Nobody will say anything. So the letter
Ah.
after said, and this, I guess, is a quote, it says, "I hope you die of grief, boss. Your money can't give you back your son. Here is my vengeance, you stupid bastard." So there's,
Oh my god.
yeah. So the media soon found out about the letter and also found out about the previous letters and phone calls and harassment that the family members had been receiving, and they dubbed the unknown caller harassing the family as, quote, the Crow.
So they hadn't told police that someone was harassing them at all?
I think they had, but the media didn't know about it.
Oh.
Yeah, so with the kidnapping and everything in this letter, they kind of pieced it together that there was something more going on. It wasn't just an isolated kidnapping, that like this had been building up for upwards of 3 years.
Wow.
So
That's nuts.
based on this, the police obviously, as I said, believed that this person was a family member and that actually Jean-Marie knew exactly who it was, but he was refusing to tell the police who. And there's actually audio tapes even in the documentary where they are interviewing Jean-Marie and they're asking him, "Do you know who the Crow is, or do you have an idea?" And he says, "Yes, I'm like certain I know who killed my son." And they're like, "Will you tell us?" And he said, I can't be sure, so I won't." Like, he won't even talk. And it was his own son. Like, when I say this family isn't talking, this family isn't talking. Like,
What is it? What, I'm sorry. I have a question. What was the Netflix special called?
Who killed little Gregory?
I don't know. That last part sounded very familiar, like I had seen that. The dad saying he's not sure, so he's afraid to say.
Oh, I think it plays in, like, the trailer. You might have seen the trailer for it then.
Oh, with my memory, I could have watched the whole thing a while ago, like you did. And not...
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't remember because, like, wow,
So the couple
that's crazy.
at this time, obviously with everything going on, and from what I remember in like the special, the couple were kind of told by the media that they were coming across extremely cold and like uncaring about Gregory,
No.
because they were trying to do press conferences asking for information and stuff, and then people are saying, "Well, you guys know what happened and you guys are the ones not talking," and they were trying to like hold it together and everything. So people were saying they were coming across really like cold and that they didn't care about Gregory at all.
I don't think that's
That's not fair.
necessarily the case
Yeah.
always, because you're not law enforcement, and like, so just because you know something, you don't know if it's enough to get that person convicted, and you don't want to like lose your one chance of convicting that
Yeah.
person, maybe, like, Man, I'm gonna have to ask Pat because I think maybe I did watch this.
Might have. Yeah, it's
Anyway,
crazy.
sorry. It's not. Yeah,
Um,
it's crazy. That's what's. I'm like, it's so bonkers, but it's starting to sound familiar bonkers.
yeah, there's even
Jesus.
more. It just gets even crazier.
Oh. Oh
Yeah.
no.
So people
Okay.
like close to the family, including reporters that were like actually on the family's good side and were granted interviews and like special photo shoots and stuff, even inside the house and like Gregory's bedroom. Um,
Yeah.
they
Oh,
said
sorry.
that the couple were actually in shock and that they were not wanting to cause like outbursts that would make them look worse or like look over dramatic, or that they were trying to like kind of create a show for people or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's tough because if you're the parents, you're so scrutinized that anything you do, one way or the other,
Yeah,
somebody's gonna probably have something to say about it. I
exactly.
don't know. If TV and true crime and thriller books have taught me anything, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jean Marie's cousin, his name is Bernard LaRoche. He was actually the police's like first suspect, and this was mainly due to handwriting comparisons that they made on the letters and the like letter that was received the next day. And as well, he had actually had a statement made against him by his 15-year-old sister-in-law, Muriel Bowl. Um,
Muriel. Ooh,
yeah,
that's an old-fashioned name.
right? Yeah. So she stated that LaRoche had picked her up from school on the day that Gregory had been kidnapped, and that the two of them had driven straight from her school to the Villemin house, and that she remembers them kidnapping Gregory, taking him to the river, and that she sat in the vehicle while LaRoche took Gregory and like threw him into the river and then got back in the car. Um, yeah.
Okay.
Right? So
So
Bull,
why is this not credible enough? Like, what the
yeah,
what?
I'll answer that in a second. So Bull added that, um, or sorry, yeah, added that LaRoche then took a walk with the child and returned alone. He was taken into custody on November 5th, 1984, but shortly after this, Bull recanted her statement and said that because she was 15, she had been like denied representation and she had been coerced by the police into giving this statement and like threatened. And she says that she had lied and that she had actually taken the bus home that day and that she hadn't even seen LaRoche until she got home from school after taking the bus.
Oh
And
no.
yeah,
Pretty much like there's no way to know.
yeah. LaRoche denied any involvement in the murder or being the crow, the anonymous caller, and he was released from custody about 4 months later on February 4th, 1985. It is noted, however, that the bus driver in question of the bus does say that on the day of the murder that Muriel Bowl was not on the bus, and that's also backed up by some of her friends. Um,
Okay.
yeah,
Well then, I don't
and
know about her story about the police coercing her then. That's a
yeah,
little sus.
right? That's why I'm like, this family is just all levels of weird. Um, so witnesses
Yeah.
also confirmed that a man with a mustache similar to LaRoche's, he has a very distinct mustache, and look about him. It's actually kind of funny. Um,
Okay.
and his 15-year-old sister-in-law Muriel, she has like shoulder length, like flaming red hair, like natural red hair.
I'm sorry, just
So
cracked my neck. Yep.
so
She's a redhead.
witnesses can confirm that a man with a mustache similar to LaRoche's and a girl with red hair like Muriel's were seen near the Villemin house and in their driveway. Um, yeah. So,
The circumstantial evidence is piling up.
oh, there's more. It gets bonkers.
No, I'm good. He
Uh,
did it. He
so
did it.
despite the police clearing LaRoche, Gregory's father, Jean Marie, was at this time, he was absolutely convinced that LaRoche was the killer. And in front of media, like on record, vowed that he was going to kill LaRoche for what he had done to Gregory.
Jesus Christ, guys.
Yeah. This family is just
like, pull yourselves together.
messed up. So,
I mean, yeah, it's like most families are either one way or the other. They like fight out in the open, or they don't talk about the fights at all, and they fight more passive aggressively. These guys have like a mixture of both, and they're like
well,
intense.
Some sources said like with the Crow contacting them so constantly and like sharing these family secrets with like it created like factions and like groupings within the family and kind of pitted like clusters of family members against each other continually for 3 years before this happened. So there is a lot of like animosity in the family before this even happened.
Well, who's the master manipulator in the family? That's obviously who it is. Jeez.
Yeah, right? So on March 25th, after police had cleared LaRoche, Gregory's mother, Christine, she now became the main suspect, as determined, again, by handwriting experts. So they're just, these handwriting experts, I feel like, just don't know anything. Because they're like, it's LaRoche.
Well,
and now it's Christine.
I know that's like maybe the only piece of like solid evidence they think they have to go on, but like that's not solid as far as evidence goes.
Exactly.
It's handwriting. It's like basing your whole case on like teeth marks or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that whole forensic.
It's not
entry. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not enough to do a beyond reasonable doubt.
No, it's not reliable enough. Exactly.
Yeah. So partly Christine was now the suspect as witnesses came forward and said that she was at the post office to supposedly mail the letter that was received by the couple the next day, and that she did this pretty much like an hour before Gregory's murder. That people claim she went to the post office. That's really handwriting, and she went to the post office.
Right. Those.
But like, God forbid you go to the post office, you know?
Those smoking guns of
checking your mail and yeah.
All right.
So police also said that the rope used to bind Gregory's hand and feet were found in the Villemin house, but the couple stated that LaRoche had actually given it to them. Don't know how that panned out. Whatever. It like never comes up again. Yeah.
They're like, not important because we're all family, so it doesn't matter.
Right?
It's like, oh my God.
And interestingly enough, though, and another mystery that just adds to this is that during Gregory's autopsy, it revealed that in the river he was found in, it has a bunch of like microorganisms in the body of water. And during his autopsy, it was found that none of these microorganisms in his lungs that should have been present if he had drowned in that river were there. So police believed that he had actually been drowned in a different body of water and that he had then been placed in the river.
What the fuck?
Yeah, because they couldn't find any of these, like, microorganisms or whatever in his, like, lungs.
That just makes you go, but why, though?
Right? And he's only, like, from the time they received the phone call, like, the uncle supposedly receives this phone call saying he's in the river to when he goes missing is less than half an hour. So, yeah, it's such a tight timeline. It's crazy.
Yeah, that is bonkers. I don't know. That's bananas.
Yeah. So, police also reportedly found tire tracks that they say matched Christine's vehicle on the banks of the river. Which, whatever.
Well, the post office thing fell through.
Yeah, so now they got tire tracks on the river. They said, I can't remember what the circumstances of it were. I'm pretty sure they did talk about it in the Netflix special, but she had actually sold that vehicle 2 weeks after Gregory's death, and her husband were driving a rental vehicle during this time for like months after they were driving this rental vehicle. So, because she had sold the vehicle after Gregory's death, apparently the new owner that had bought it from her had already driven like almost 2,000 miles on the tires, so they couldn't get like a proper match from them because they had been worn down enough.
They're just grasping at straws.
Exactly.
Sounds like.
They really have nothing in this case. So police also claimed and reported that the Villemin family phone bill was extremely high at the times that the Crows were that the Crow was making their phone calls, despite the fact that they weren't like Jean-Marie and Christine were not typically the ones receiving the phone calls. So, if you tried to say that, like, Christine and Jean-Marie were the ones making the phone calls, that's really the only explanation, I guess, as to why they, like, one source said their phone bill during the peak times of calls to other family members, their phone bill was upwards of, like, 3 times as high as it normally was. Yeah. But they weren't the ones that were typically receiving the phone calls from the Crow. It was typically Jean-Marie's parents.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you think their phone bill, like, if they're not receiving the phone calls, why is their phone bill skyrocketing at the times that the Crow's making all these calls?
I don't know. They're calling other people because they're like, my family's fucked up.
Right? Yeah. I don't know. So in 1985, the couple were told by their counsel that they, in order to gain like public sympathy and to not look cold and detached, that they should try and have another child. Which...
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
That's your business.
Right? They actually talk about it a lot in the Netflix special, and it's heartbreaking. They're like, yeah, we were pretty much just like trying to have a child while being like, we don't really want to. And like their marriage was kind of falling apart. And they're like, and we're being told we should have another kid, like, but
always have a Band-Aid baby.
Yeah. So
oh my god.
Well, this was like their counsel, like their lawyers and stuff were telling them you should have a baby. It wasn't their idea.
Well, still,
yeah.
Whoever's motive for her making the baby, that's not a good reason.
No. So obviously when the public found out and Christine did end up getting pregnant, this did completely backfire because they're like, look at the couple immediately replacing the baby, like Gregory, pretty much a year after he disappeared.
My eyes just rolled back so far. I think they're stuck.
Yeah.
That's wrong on so many levels.
Yeah. So they were saying that, yeah, the public pretty much completely turned on them, saying that they were replacing Gregory and that they had done so very quickly. Again, no matter what you do, the public would have been against you anyway.
No, it's one of those, what is it, logical fallacies or biases that you have. Like, if you screw up, you're like, well, this was circumstances in my life. But if someone else screws up, you're like, well, how could they do that?
Yeah.
And we just judge them more harshly than we would ever judge ourselves.
Exactly.
We all do it, yeah.
So another twist in this already weird case is on March 29th, 1985, Jean-Marie went to LaRoche's house and shot and killed LaRoche as he was walking out of his house on his way to get into his vehicle to go to work.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, obviously, Jean-Marie is taken into custody. LaRoche is dead. And Jean-Marie is now, like, in prison waiting for sentencing. And just a few months later, the same year, in July of 1985, Christine is then officially charged with the murder of Gregory. So, like, Jean-Marie's in prison, now Christine is officially charged with Gregory's murder. Like...
Okay.
This entire story
if she's
is a
so
gong
guilty,
show.
her husband would totally go and shoot that other guy.
Right? Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, after Christine's arrest, apparently she went on an 11-day hunger strike, and she actually ended up getting released on appeals due to flimsy evidence, as we just discussed, the stupid, like, post office tire tracks and handwriting, which has already pointed the fingers at numerous people. And as well as the absence just of a motive in general. Like, why would she kill her child? Like,
Well,
there was absolutely no motive.
exactly.
So, it's unfortunate, but at the stress of the arrest and her being charged with Gregory's murder had actually caused her to collapse, and at this time she was pregnant with twins, and she ended up miscarrying one of the children. Yeah.
I didn't know it was twins.
Yeah.
I could for sure know what you were going to say next was that she lost the baby, which is just awful.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god. That
So,
poor woman.
yeah.
Like this couple.
Yeah.
They've been through the complete ringer.
Mm-hmm. So Jean-Marie, he was convicted of the murder of LaRoche, obviously. There was witnesses, like, if I remember correctly, he was there, his wife may have been there, and there was a reporter there. Because from what I remember the Netflix documentary, this reporter, he's in the Netflix one a lot, almost as much as the couple is, because the couple doesn't give interviews about it. So he's talking about, like, his relationship with them during this whole thing, and he says that Jean-Marie, after he had made the, like, public threat to kill LaRoche, that they had gotten kind of close, and he would go over, even just for, like, dinner, to talk to the family and the couple and stuff about, like, what was going on, and kind of, like, off the record, he was trying to be, like, a friend to the couple, and he was really on their side and trying to be, because a lot of the media was completely against them. And so Jean-Marie had called him one night and said he was, like, I think he was, like, on his way to kill LaRoche, and the reporter ended up, like, stopping him from doing it once, and the reporter, I can't remember his name, he ended up not reporting it to police that Jean-Marie had attempted to kill LaRoche. And then he actually had, like, a strange conversation with Jean-Marie, like, a couple weeks later, and had a weird feeling, and he followed Jean-Marie, and he also witnessed him kill LaRoche, and he was unable to stop it that time. So, yeah.
So many failures.
Yeah, so Jean-Marie, obviously, he was convicted of the murder of LaRoche. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison. So he actually only ended up serving about 2.5 years, because he was awaiting sentencing for quite a while. And they gave him credit for time served. And then because the jury and people in the trial viewed it as, like, I guess in an appeals process, they viewed it as, like, a retaliation for the fact that he believed this guy killed his son. They kind of...
I took that into account.
A leeway, yeah. So he only ended up serving about 2.5 years out of his 5-year prison sentence, and he was released in December of 1987. And the good news is, as well, Christine Villemin was finally cleared of all charges on February 2nd, 1993. Just, like, the only follow-ups I could really find is that the case was reopened in 2000 for DNA testing from a stamp used on one of the letters from the crow. This came back inconclusive. In December of 2008, DNA testing was done on the rope that was used to bind Gregory, along with more testing on the letters and other evidence. These two proved inconclusive. And in 2013, DNA testing of Gregory's clothes and shoes also came back inconclusive.
Damn.
Yeah. So, The last people that I could find that have been like suspects are in June of 2017. 3 people were arrested based on, they said, new evidence, and they were Gregory's great aunt and great uncle, as well as Gregory's aunt.
Whoa.
Yeah, not much information was really given about it. And Muriel Bowl was also arrested again. It seemed like some sources said these 4 arrests were because they wanted to, like, police wanted to question these 4. It wasn't they were being arrested because they believed that they committed it. It was, yeah, it was weird. Something said that they were really just brought in for questioning, but they were held for over a month, all of them. Like,
Weird.
yeah.
In 2017.
Yeah. So
That's like 4 years ago as we speak. It's like,
Yeah.
what the fuck?
So they were all held for about 36 days before being released. And Muriel Bowl, who was 15 at the time, and she was the one that originally pointed the finger at LaRoche, she maintains that of her innocence, and that Bernard LaRoche was innocent, and that her statement against him was coerced by the police. But family members say that they believe LaRoche and his wife, Muriel Bowles' sister, like, after she came home from giving her statement against LaRoche, family members claim that they beat her and forced her to say it was coerced by the police. So, it's...
Oh my lord.
Yeah.
You don't know what to believe.
Yeah, really, it's just absolute family drama that culminated in 2 murders. Like... Yeah. So...
And there's like, I don't know, it's not like they're like fighting over a bunch of money
No.
or like drugs or like
We don't even know what they're
business.
fighting about, because nobody will
It doesn't
say
make
anything.
any sense.
Yeah. That's why I'm like, this is like probably
Baffling.
in my top 5 probably of like unsolved cases. Like, I just want to know what, because there's too many unknowns in this. Like,
What the
I want to know what happened to Gregory. I wanted to know who the crow is. I wanted to know what the drama is. What's the hang up with this family? What's their deal? What's their problem?
Right.
So as I said, the case remains unsolved. The police and family members are all adamant that multiple family members worked together in the kidnapping and murder of Gregory. However, due to lack of evidence, they're unable to confirm any suspects unless a family member suddenly decides to start talking. And it's been, like, what, 35 years? 36 years? 37 years? Almost 40 years. Nobody's talking. Like...
Yeah, and it's, I don't know, it's so hard for me to wrap my head around, like, multiple family members going in on the murder of a
Right?
small child. Like, I find it easier to believe that some went along with the cover-up.
Yeah.
But, like, you're like, oh my god, either way, it's horrible.
And if you look up a picture of Gregory, there's like 2 that are like the main ones. He is, I have to say, one of the cutest kids you will ever see a picture of. And that's like absolutely heartbreaking. Like,
It's a horrible case.
yeah.
So we have a comedy podcast.
Yeah.
We're
that's like-
sorry about
That
it.
was my first one. My second
No.
one is a bit happier, you know?
Oh my god. I forgot you had a second one.
Yeah.
That was insane.
Yeah. I honestly, I recommend anybody watch the Who Killed Little Gregory one. As I said, it's like 8 hours, almost 9 hours or something. It's between everything. There's quite a bit I left out that's just like family drama, fist fights at the funeral, punching reporters, like just craziness. Yeah.
My god.
There's
Speaking of
a
8 or
lot.
9 hours, how long is this episode gonna be? I'm scared.
Probably 2 hours. A little
But
over 2
wow,
hours.
mine was like over an hour, wasn't it? It was
Yeah.
definitely over an hour.
Yours was...
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, this one's much shorter. And there won't be Yeah, there isn't as much to it. It's way shorter. So,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
This is one.
There's not so much time for so much confusion and pain.
No, this one's like pretty cut and dry. I just really liked it for a kidnapping, I guess.
Well, it's like my story. It was like,
Yeah.
I found it kind of like inspiring and like
Yeah.
it wasn't just like, I want to kill myself.
That's what this one is. That's why I'm happy. Yeah, because in this one, they got away. And it was, yeah.
Ooh.
So,
Survivors.
yeah, this is often just called the 1976 Chowchilla Kidnapping.
Ah, I am familiar. This is a good one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I really only ran across it in like one list, and I was like, are you kidding me? Like,
Oh, really?
yeah. It wasn't like one of the main ones that like pops up all the time. So I was like, that's kind of
No,
cool.
that's true.
Yeah.
We were like in a hotel room somewhere and watching like 48 Hours and it
Oh,
came on. And so that's how
cool.
I heard of it. And then
Yeah.
I eventually heard a podcast cover it, but I don't like that was the only one podcast I know of ever
Yeah.
covered it. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, now I'm excited.
So this takes place at 4 p.m. on July 15th, 1976 in Chowchilla, California. And school bus driver Frank Edward Ray was driving his 26 students, aged 5 to 14, from Dairyland Elementary School home after a summer class trip to the fairgrounds swimming pool. So, who
Yes.
goes on like field trips in the middle of summer? That's kind of fun.
Yeah, I feel like it was like there's not like summer school. They were like, it's summer school. It's more
Yeah.
like camp.
Yeah, something like that. So they're driving down the road when a van pulls in front of them and blocks the road ahead. So bus driver Ray, he stops the bus and is suddenly confronted by 3 armed men with nylon stockings covering their faces. They all boarded the bus while one of the masked men held a gun to Ray's head. Another began driving the bus, with the third man following behind the bus in the van that they had used to block the road.
Wow, they just like completely caught them off guard.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm just gonna be the neighborhood Samaritan, like the good Samaritan, and help you out. Cause like, who wouldn't? That was so his nature or whatever.
Yeah.
And the time.
So the bus and the students, along with Ray, were driven to kind of a branch off of Chowchilla River, and in this area, the 3 armed men had stashed like a second van, this one with blacked out back windows, and the kids were like put into this van. And after everybody was loaded into the van, the bus was kind of concealed by like branches and brush by the river, and they left it there.
Okay.
So Ray and the 26 children were then, like shockingly, driven around inside the van for up to 11 hours, which,
Ugh.
yeah,
Can you imagine?
awful.
Terrifying.
Yeah. So 11 hours before they were driven down to a quarry in Livermore, California. So this is, yeah, kind of like the next morning, July 16th, they were then forced out of the van and one by one forced to climb a ladder down into a moving truck that had been buried. So they had like dug in the side of a hill and buried a moving truck 12 feet underground with like just the top of it cut open. So the kids and Ray were all forced inside of this buried moving van.
Which is just like, yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Who thinks of that?
Awful. The truck was stocked with a small amount of food and water, along with some mattresses, and the top of the truck was then covered with a heavy piece of metal, like a sheet, and that was weighed down with a bunch of heavy objects on top. So,
They definitely put some thought into it, that's for
yeah.
sure.
After being trapped for 12 hours, it was said that the food was starting to run low and that the roof of the truck had actually begun to cave in on them.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's just like,
which
could
would
it get
be
any
very
worse?
scary. Like, at this
Yeah.
point, they're upwards of 24 hours. They've been captive in one way or another.
Yeah, and like I know that like the youngest was probably 5 or something like that.
Yeah.
Like they ranged from,
Yeah.
5 to 12 or something like that. So it's just like, yeah, the little ones must be just like shitting
Yeah.
themselves. Yeah.
So Ray and some of the older kids started stacking the mattresses that were left in the truck. They started stacking them up and used this to reach the top of the truck, where they kind of alternated and took turns and worked for hours to kind of push on the lid of the truck, until finally Ray and 14-year-old Michael Marshall were able to lift the lid open with a piece of wood, and they got the items that were piled on top of the metal sheet to kind of move out of their way.
And they're like dug themselves out to freedom. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
So Michael Marshall, I believe, is the one that dug through the rest of the debris that was blocking the entrance. So after 16 hours of work inside the truck, the group emerged free, and Ray and the kids walked to the quarry guard's shack that was in the quarry, and they were greeted by stunned employees working at the quarry that day who had no idea what was going on. They just show up to work one day and suddenly some dude and 26 kids walk out of the middle of nowhere in the quarry and are like, "We were held captive here for the last 16 hours." Like,
But it had been on the news at that point. I mean, they should have
oh
had
yeah,
some idea too. Yeah. But like still they're like, how?
right?
Oh my
So
God.
the obviously the suspects involved, the first one is the 24-year-old son of the quarry owner. His name is Frederick Newhall Woods the Fourth.
Of course.
Yeah. He was
Dummy.
suspected mainly because he had access to the quarry and like keys, and he would have been able to like orchestrate the timing and everything for them to be able to actually bury the truck. Like,
Right.
because that's a
Yeah.
huge thing to get away with, first of all, before you kidnap kids.
Yeah, he had the connections.
Yeah. He and his two friends, who were brothers, James and Richard Schoenfeld, they,
Schoenfeld.
yeah,
No.
Schoenfeld,
Sure.
they were all suspects, and all three at this time were actually out on probation for a prior grand theft auto charge.
Oh.
So, yeah.
They just went a little bigger this time. They
Yeah.
stole a truck and all the kids inside it.
Yeah.
Oh my
So,
God.
searches of the Woods house found a gun that was used in the kidnapping, along with a draft of a ransom note. But the three men at this time had disappeared. Couldn't be found. So, like, manhunt kind of took form, and Woods, at the time 24, he was caught and arrested 14 days after the kidnapping, actually in Vancouver, BC.
BC, Canada,
Yeah.
represent. I
Uh,
mean, he went straight north. He ran for
yeah,
the border
pretty
for the
much.
country.
James, who was also 24, was caught the same day as Woods was. He was caught in Manilo Park in California, so he didn't make it very far.
Oh, but they both
And
got caught the same day, so that
yeah,
says something interesting.
and then Richard, who was James' younger brother, he actually turned himself in just 8 days after the kidnapping.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was the youngest involved, so he turned himself in.
Oh, and then they went on the road looking for the other ones.
Yeah. So the
Yeah.
three of them had actually intended to call in a $5 million ransom for the return of all of the kids. How,
Okay, I was gonna
yeah.
say, yeah, it's like, what's the motive, right?
Yeah, so they wanted $5 million ransom for all of the kids to be returned. However, because there was just so many kids missing, the phone lines in the city were all tied up because parents were calling around looking for their kids, and the three of them were actually unable to ever make the ransom phone call because the phone lines were continuously busy. So,
They were like, we should have had a plan B for
yeah.
communicating this ransom. Like maybe a note,
Yeah.
possibly a pager,
Right. A billboard? No.
a messenger pigeon.
Yeah. So, because they couldn't make the phone call, these three were just super intelligent, but somehow they all fell asleep.
They were tired from all that kidnapping.
Yeah, they're tired. So they fell asleep.
Life is hard, okay? Kidnapping. It's what is that thing where they just it's hard.
Yeah.
Oh.
So they fell asleep, and when the three of them actually woke up, they woke to news reports saying that Ray and the kids had already freed themselves. So,
Damn it, Carl!
right? They took
You had one job.
Yeah, they take a nap and suddenly they're all free. So, you might ask why they need $5 million. So, despite coming from wealthy families, James and his brother, or James and Woods, said that they were actually deeply in debt and needed the money to clear that debt, and that they believed children were the best target because a ransom would actually be paid off for kids, because nobody's going to say no to getting these kids returned, you know?
Literally just a get rich quick scheme,
Yeah.
but they didn't want to join a pyramid scheme.
Yeah. So, the three of them, in one source, it said that they may have been inspired by the plot of the story The Day the Children Vanished. And so this was by Hugh Pentecost, and it was published actually in Alfred Hitchcock's Daring Detectives in 1969, and a copy of that book was available in their local library. So it's possible.
Oh. But then that would require them reading a book.
Yeah, require them going to the library and being educated in something, I guess.
Exactly. They don't seem that educated.
Yeah. SMRT. Hi, I'm so smart. SMRT. So they all actually ended up pleading guilty in court to kidnapping for ransom and robbery. But all three of them refused to plead guilty to the second charge, which was infliction of bodily harm.
Oh,
Yeah.
they could not possibly say that. I would kidnap a child, but I would never hurt him.
So the reason why they didn't want to plead guilty to that is because these two charges combined would end up with them all being sentenced to life without the possibility of parole.
Nut up.
Yeah. But it didn't matter. Each of them were convicted of both charges, and all three of them were given life without parole. However,
Nice.
yeah. However, all three of them in like appeals process were actually found that because the physical injuries that the kids got and received during this whole ordeal were really only minor cuts and bruises, it didn't meet the court's requirements of the definition of bodily harm, and the three were actually all reassessed and given life with the possibility of parole.
That's a tough one for me. I'm kind of like, they seemed really young and dumb. Really dumb.
Yeah. And
I feel like they probably didn't have, super intention to harm the kids, but at the same time, neither did the person in the Ursula, German girl case, and they still fucked up horribly, so...
Yeah. It could have been, like, endangerment of a child's life instead of bodily harm or something.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah. So Richard, he was the one that was 22, and turned himself in. He was released in 2012. His brother James, who at the
Wow.
time was 2000 or who at the time was 24,
He was
he
2024.
yeah, he was released in 2015. And then Woods is still in prison. He's been denied parole for the 19th time, but is up again in 2024.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
so the mastermind guy.
Yeah.
Or if you can call it that. the the lead idiot.
Yeah, definitely. Part of the reason
Wow.
he's been denied parole is because he isn't really taking responsibility for the kidnapping, as well as while
Oh.
he's been in prison, he has been found with like possession of contraband. And actually, it was so weird, but in 2016 it was revealed that he had apparently been operating at least two businesses while in prison. Um,
Oh.
yeah,
Get it, guy?
he
No.
was somehow operating both a gold mine and a car dealership without the prison's knowledge.
What?
Right? I have no idea. Um,
Especially because, like, when he first went in, the internet wasn't really a thing. So that seems
yeah.
like weird things to be operating remotely.
Yeah.
Really weird things. And
And
also, wait, gold mining?
yeah, he was operating a
That
gold mine.
that's like a connection, not really a connection, but remember the end of my case, she said she wanted to learn like
Yeah.
goldsmithing and like
Cool.
psychology and something.
Yeah.
It's like, what the heck? Okay. Oh, shoemaking. That's what it was.
Yeah.
What the heck? Okay. Interesting.
Another weird thing while Woods has been in prison is, and I hate this, he doesn't deserve. Ugh, I
Uh-oh.
hate this with a passion. But he has apparently inherited approximately $100 million combined wealth from both sides of his family. So I don't know how many family members died, but he has received $100 million.
What?
Yeah. He
Oh,
is
and he's the heir to the gravel pit or whatever.
from the
The rock
quarry,
quarry.
yeah.
They're the same thing in my mind. There's
During his
rocks. No.
during his time in prison, he's also been married 3 times. And he has also already purchased a mansion about 30 minutes away from the prison that he is going to be moving into once he's released. So,
So he's really not like lamenting his existence
no.
at this moment. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
He went into prison after kidnapping children because he needed $5 million, and he'll be walking out of prison with $100 million. Like,
I don't even. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate him. I hate that too.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
You warned me, but it's awful.
in 1981, one of the oh, this part was sad. I shouldn't have just randomly
Oh.
started that
In
sentence.
1981.
In
More
ni-
somber.
Yeah. In
Okay.
1981, one of the children, Jeff Brown, actually died in a farm equipment accident at the age of 15. So this was shortly
Ooh.
after. And him and his younger sister were kidnap victims from the
Right,
Chowchilla
okay.
incident.
That's awful.
Yeah. Yeah, he died at age 15. It's terrible. So just like wrapping up some stuff is driver Ray. He unfortunately did pass away in 2012. But he did receive the California School Employees Association citation for outstanding community service, which is good.
Yay!
Yeah, because
He should.
yeah,
He kept driving, I think. It's like, aw, you just loved your job and you like were a hero, just an everyday hero.
and he really like banded those kids together and saved their lives. So
Yeah, him and that like older kid Michael. I remember they
Yeah.
were like, "Yeah, we're gonna get out of this. Like, this isn't
Yeah.
this isn't gonna be the last day we're here. No, no."
Yeah. So
It's crazy.
before Ray's death, many of the kids he had helped to rescue that day ended up visiting him. And in 2015, after he passed away, a local sports and leisure park was named after him, as well as every February 26th, it is declared Edward Ray Day in Chowchilla. So that's nice.
Aww,
Yeah. So they're honoring
Edward
him, which is
Ray.
amazing.
What a ray of light he is.
Yeah. Um, on kind of the flip side, as you'd expect, many of the kids that were kidnapped do suffer from PTSD and panic attacks along with anxiety.
Yep, that's totally
Yeah.
to be expected. Mm-hmm.
Some have spent time in prison, while others have battled substance abuse problems for their parts of their lives, or suffered depression, or one source said they also experienced personality changes, which
I was gonna say and or like
yeah.
both. Yeah, either. Oof.
But what was learned from the after effects suffered by the kidnapped children, I guess it's reported that this was used to help guide the treatment of young victims of trauma in many different like areas or causes of trauma, I guess.
Oh,
Yeah, so
I
they
mean, it is like a group of like, 30
26, yeah.
children. Okay, yeah, it's like a really good, well, a better study than like 10,
Yeah.
or like one or two. It's definitely like a better kind of group to pull
Yeah, so you have
from.
like 26
Hmm.
kids that went through the exact same experience, and you can kind of track how maybe it like differently impacted each of their lives, and maybe based on like how
Yeah,
old they were, because they also have a varying of ages. Like,
right.
yeah,
And they didn't all become like alcoholics after, but
no,
like unfortunately some did and stuff like that. Exactly.
yeah.
Wow.
So
That's interesting.
the last thing I could find about it just says that in 2016, the 25 surviving kidnapped children actually were able to settle a lawsuit they had filed against their kidnappers, and the money that they received was paid out of Woods's trust fund. So it was 100 million.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um
Good. Good, good, good,
but
good, good.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
But it is said that although the exact amount of the settlement isn't being disclosed, one survivor did disclose and state that the amount that they each received was, quote, enough to pay for some serious therapy, but not enough for a house. So they
Oh,
clearly
sounds
didn't get
like
very much. They're out of $100 million. This guy, like, they couldn't even get even $1 million each, and he'd still get like almost
no.
70
Sounds
million
like
dollars. Like,
it's got to
yeah,
be like low 10,000s because like
yeah,
you would think, it's like what? You got to put like 5-10% down, 20, whatever it is. It's
yeah.
ridiculous to buy a fucking house. Ridiculous.
Hmm.
But like, yeah, if you can't even make a down payment, then you didn't get 20 grand or whatever.
Yeah, I have no
Ugh,
idea. But
like that's what I think, but I don't know. Not enough. They obviously didn't
no,
get enough.
but yeah. So
But they
it's
did
kind
get
of
away.
yes. They all got away. They all survived thanks to Ray and uh
Michael.
yeah. What was his last? Michael Marshall. So yeah, were
Marshall
amazing.
Mathers. No. And it was Eminem. On that young man grew up to be
Oh my God, no.
Eminem. No, I'm just kidding. I keep seeing that everywhere. It's like, I think it was an old show where they're like, and that's the person grew up to be after they tell you their whole story.
Oh yeah, I think I've seen that before. But, yeah. So after my
Wow.
sad murder
Wow.
of Gregory and his fucked up family in France, I was like, I definitely want to cover one where people get away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely some fascinating ones out there. And I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, the sad ones are just as fascinating, but yeah, I'm really glad you covered that one. I find that
Yeah.
one's a really
It was
really
cool.
interesting
I
story.
had never heard about it, and
Yeah,
there
I
was,
literally discovered that in the last year too, as I feel like I'm discovering everything where I'm like,
yeah.
I knew about true crime, but I didn't really know about true crime.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the 48 hours, yeah, it was really good. I'd recommend it too. It was like hearing from the kids themselves and stuff.
Yeah, I think
It
I
was really
found
cool.
the article that was like written up from it or something because all of the
Yeah.
pictures from it were with the 48 hours, like little
Ah, yes.
trademark, like water stamp in the corner. So
Mm-hmm.
those are like all the pictures I found, and stuff, or most of them for that case, that'll be on the website are from like 48 hours. It was just from an
Nice.
article version of it, I think. But
Things you watch when you're in a hotel room and you don't have your regular Netflix and
yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
I
Well,
think I was in Banff with Rain and Mom, but I can't remember. I'll have to
nice.
ask.
Yeah.
She'll let me know when she gets to this episode. Um,
Perfect. But what is
Good
our
job.
Oh,
Enjoyed
thank
it.
you. Yeah, I enjoyed yours. You covered a lot of stuff I didn't know about that case.
This is fun. I don't know. It definitely is. Did we tell them what we're doing next time?
No, not yet. It's haunted
Okay.
prisons.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. It's another haunted AF. And this
Yeah.
time, oh yeah, we haven't done any prisons. We haven't done any sanatoriums or asylums or anything like that. So we're
Yep.
starting with prisons.
Yeah.
I love the haunted ones. They are really fun, and I hope everyone else enjoys them too. Cause like we have so many more haunted things to do.
Yeah.
Oh. So anyway, yes, we will catch you for that one. And don't forget to rate, review, and check us out on Patreon if you haven't yet.
Yeah.
And we'll catch you next week.
Yeah. And we're still looking for listener stories, or if you have questions for us, you can still send those in.
I might have. Reza said she might have a. After sleep paralysis came out, she said she might have a sleep paralysis one for us.
Ooh,
I
very
said,
cool.
"Oh, don't hold back. Why didn't you
Yeah.
tell me?
Tell us everything.
Send it in."
Yeah.
Ugh, jealous. Big sisters get all the fun, all the good stories.
Yeah.
All right, till next time. Bye.
Yeah. Bye. This has been Castles and Cryptids. You can listen to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Anchor, Breaker, Pocket Cast, and our YouTube channel. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Reddit. On our website, you can listen to all of our episodes as well as view pictures for each of our segments. Check out our Patreon page to view all of our tiers and become a Patreon supporter today to unlock monthly bonus episodes and behind-the-scenes content. We are working on an Ask Us Anything. You can submit questions by social media or by email at castlesandcryptids@gmail.com. Do you have a spooky ghost story, a creepy cryptid sighting, or a thrilling true crime tale you would like to share and have us include in a future episode? Send us your listener story by social media or by email. Please include the name that you would like mentioned. Our music is by Kobe Fair. Our logo and artwork is by Antonio Garcia. Thanks for listening.